I think you needed to differentiate the concepts. So,
which, funny enough, though, Space Invaders actually works.
Versus manipulating a window.
Yeah, I wanted to do it, but we keep doing something else, which is just adding back the numbers as is. And
Wow.
then 5 years in the future, we're gonna wake up and like, sure.
All right, guys. So this is basically what Pallavi put together. This is I think it's a diff between desktop and what we currently have. Let me look at what's in. It looks like basically what we have right now in the Project K branch, which I suppose is what we consider latest in .NET Core. And yeah, the diff is actually larger than I expected it to be as well. So the goal was, I asked Pallavi to put it together because I think, every time we run into somebody that uses something, that we don't have, then we basically have a one-off of porting, right? And so the idea is to take a holistic look at what we have and then make a decision. Do we port it wholesale? Do we leave it as is? And what are we doing for the things we can implement? So we spent some time digging into that and basically make annotations for what we can support and what we cannot support. And I think it's actually larger than what I thought it would be. The question is, what are we going to actually do for those APIs? One option is we don't port them. One option is we throw. Another option is we port it, but put it in some other contract, right, and then have that work. The problem is for statics, it's kind of shitty because there's just no nice way to tie them back together, right? You have to know that, there's, I don't know, console Unix, console Windows kind of thing, right? But that would be a pretty shitty experience. So I think I honestly don't know what to do with these things.
I really don't like that we keep adding these APIs that throw platform not supported exception. I really think that we need to go all the way and change mentality and we are designing, forget about, we are designing for Linux developers. They should have first-class experience.
I completely agree.
Correct? So throwing platform not supported exception is not first-class experience. It doesn't look like an API designed for them. We need to be able to go to Linux developers and say, we have a platform that was designed for you. And the moment they say, what the heck about those platform not supported exception, it's not true.
Well, I mean, the tricky part is, you can make the argument in both cases, right? Because I remember when Mitch shared the document for how to factor, right? Do you generally think that we should never throw, or it's a continuum?
I think it should be the world will come down if we don't. It should be an exception, not, okay, well, let's just port all the APIs that we had in the past, and whenever we run into an issue, throw platform not supported exception.
Yes.
That's, to me, it's acceptable. We throw platform not supported exceptions on Windows in some APIs, but it's an exception to the rule, not how we design APIs.
I completely agree. I think the tricky part will be, let me put it this way: if half the APIs throw, we did something wrong.
Exactly.
If core APIs that people are very, very likely to call, let's say WriteLine would throw, we're also screwed. I think if it's some borderline APIs like Beep, for example, which probably Beep we can support actually, but let's just say it would be something like that, I would be fine with that. Because the alternative is we move it somewhere else, but where would you move that, right? The only same way would be to remove the functionality, probably.
Yeah, but I think I know it's hard, I don't have an answer, but we need to come up with a solution that works for these members that are core.
Yeah, so
and once we come up with a solution, we have a solution for everything else that is not core, and then we end up with a nice API.
No, but if you have a look at the ones that are throwing, or that would throw, or can't be implemented, what do they all have in common? It's all basically window manipulation.
A good chunk of it is. Not all of them are. A good example is getting background color, right?
Well,
that can't. You can't. I thought on Linux we can actually do a real background color get.
So that's what I'm saying. We can't. You just can't do that reliably.
What?
You cannot get the background color reliably.
Yes, that's what I mean. So it's they're all something in common. Is it's the window. if you redirect out, right, and you redirect in, guess what they're going to do? These things are going to do as well.
Well, redirection, like, it's not even about redirection. Let's say you actually...
No, it is, because in Windows, on redirection, all these things that manipulate the window are going to throw.
Yeah, but on Linux that actually works. You can redirect and still write color. Because on Linux, the way they do it is it's basically ANSI escapes in the output. So it's basically together with the text, which is why, for example, if you have a console app and you pipe it to less, they preserve the color as they scroll because it's part of the data. But my point is that you cannot actually ask for the color because they just don't have that yet. So it's a bit of a...
but the rest, Windows has the same problem, right?
I agree with you. If you, let's say we would split it into window manipulation and console, I think that would probably not be terrible.
But it kind of feels like you need to really split this guy out. Like console needs to be about writing the standard out, standard in. Or getting a read from standard in, writing standard out. Then there's this other concept, which is the window. You know, that sometimes you can use, sometimes you can't. On Windows, you can't use it if standard out is redirected. Right? How is that? Like, that's what it feels like to me. Is like this optional window concept. That's if I happen to be in a window, let's manipulate it. And maybe we have a light up for that. That's can I manipulate windows, or can I like I don't know if there's a commonality between what we can and can't.
Well, I guess once you move functionality out, you're also opening the playground for like changing the members themselves, right? Slightly in order to accommodate things like background color, for example, not have a setter, for example, or not have a getter, just have a setter.
Mm-hmm.
But it sounds like the right people aren't in the room. Do we have the right?
Well, I just wanted to use the time until Younger shows up, and I mean, before we sit around and fumbling our twists, we might as well just take a look.
Is somebody online? Is Steve online?
I don't know, Steven, are you online? Somebody joined.
Is this being filmed?
It is. Yeah, Eric, Jeremy are both online, and Daniel just joined.
Because Steven seemed to have the biggest opinion on this one, so.
He does. No, I mean, I think I would just write it down what we just said.
Hello.
Hey, Danielle.
The commonality seems to be that it's all the Windows members that Linux seems to have trouble with, or Unix seems to have trouble with.
Because you like could do something like this as a property called window, and move all the members to the instance that is returned from window.
Why would you do that?
Well, because then you can basically, you know, you could either return null or do a try get window or something like this from this property. And then basically when you write the software, you have a type called console. It's about standard in and out. If you want to manipulate the window, you get this property, you check whether it's not null or try, and then you have a window, and now you manipulate window and it always works.
Yeah, or either that or a console window type
and then,
or something.
Yeah, and then we have a console window, you know, type to represent the.
Or well, I mean, you could do that or the static, a set of static.
Or you can have like a parallel static sibling of console. Yeah, that's good too.
And then it would do the same thing. Like on Unix, it would probably throw all the time. On Windows, it would throw when you redirect it.
Mm-hmm.
But why would you not just move it on a secondary type? Because then you at least have the benefit of you can actually put in a separate contract. Because I think the discoverability aspect is
Sure.
not sure it's worth it.
It's just so. Let me just test it. Is it really on the boundary of window, not window? Because some of these seem like.
Look at the ones with
setters work, getters don't work, and it has nothing to do whether it's window or not window.
Well, some of them have.
Nothing. It's related, but you have to dig really deeply to realize that it's related.
Well, I would say like it's David said, but look at all the ones that are red, right? I mean, like, cursor position is clearly window manipulation. Buffer height, buffer width is largest window height, largest window width is even key available, I would say. That's for interacting with the keyboard, same thing.
That's fine.
Well,
yeah. But it's not window. It has to do with
what?
Key available is input, right?
Yeah.
Well, let's clarify what window means. To me, that means an interactive session with the terminal.
We don't say.
Which is basically what I mean by that.
We don't say there that it's not available on Unix. We can't use key available. So I wouldn't.
Well, no, but once we do the split, I would make the split like consistent, right? Let's just say we would.
Key available will actually mean that, or does it mean it's just?
I think key available just means there's a. I think we just.
We're going to see how it's implemented.
I mean, let's say we would have a new class called terminal, right? Let's just say. Like anything that interacts with the terminal window, essentially, that's what I would mean by that.
But even interaction with terminal on Linux and on Windows, there are different capabilities for it.
Sure, but I mean, the nice thing is, as I said, like once you move it to secondary type, you can literally change the APIs and make them capability based and say, yep, on this platform you actually can't, I don't know, set the cursor position, right? Let's say.
By the way, key available, we should have, because you can't. There's no way to know whether read key is going to block. Read key will block if there's no input.
Yes.
So key available is what you check before you to figure out whether you need to block, whether you're going to block or not on read key.
I see.
So I don't know why it was probably. I think we started the wrong way with console, which is we started with nothing and added.
You mean originally when we did it? Yeah. I mean, it's definitely historically grown type, right? But that's what I'm saying. I think once you open up the venue to say, let's introduce some new API somewhere else, I think there's a bit more room. But I think console.writeline as an API has to continue to exist, right?
Correct.
Absolutely.
Now, the only thing is that, like, so as much as I said, we should have a type that is first class for all users of our platform. We do have this problem that people are just porting code. And let's say we, add console terminal type, they will have to change their code to console terminal.
Yes.
And I'm personally okay with it. It's just we are going back and forth in the team whether we are okay with it.
I think so far nobody has made the we haven't taken a holistic look at it, right? It was always one-off evidence, right? Once you look at the thing holistically like this, like it's very easy to say, look, half the APIs have problems. The current approach isn't working. And I think that's why I think it will be a bit easier to justify.
But as I said, there's no consensus on the team. It would be good, it's a separate issue. It's not
agreed
blocking, but it would be good to, build consensus that this is what we are doing. Like just so you know, I recently worked on the process component.
Yep, that's the same problem.
And to me, this is the extreme example of like 70% of the APIs throw. You can only start the process and wait for exit in a truly reliable way. Yet there are people who say, "Oh, should we be adding a process time?"
Well, I think that's what I'm saying. I think it's one of evidence, right? I think once you put things like this, like we can actually see it side by side, I think it helps. I also think like once you did it for one or two areas, the door is open. And I think then, but I agree with you that there's certain things that I think that are very primitive and need to be first class, need to be designed as such. But and as David said, like once you start with looking at both platforms at the same time, you would probably change some of the APIs anyways in order to accommodate that. But I also think if you look at usage data, I mean, I haven't done it yet. But I would easily see that you probably can come up with some better way of
because
doing
the alternative. So let me propose the alternative. The alternative is instead of subsetting console and adding this other type for the members that now are missing. we add a new type that is just standard in and out.
Yep.
Because it has the advantage that existing customers are Windows customers.
Yes.
They will have easier time porting their code because it will just work. Right? They don't have to rename console that window height to console terminal window that window height.
Yep.
New customers, Linux customers and new customers, and they will just basically.
And what would you call such a type?
Okay.
That's the problem.
There is the trade-off. There is the trade-off, but we could call it, I don't know, standard in and standard out. We could. We could have two types.
You could do that.
I mean, terminal would not be a
console
bad
is
name.
taken. What?
Terminal would not be.
Terminal. You could call it terminal.
Yes, but it is true in general that you're running out of names. And process is another one. How the fuck would you call that, right? Like, you kind of have to call it process, otherwise it's a bit.
No, so I called it.
Running process, I think.
Process reference, because you first have to start it and then you get a reference to the running process. The new API doesn't allow you to connect to existing processes. It's not really fundamentally.
Good morning.
reliable.
That's true. But
it is an issue. We are running out of names. I don't think for console the biggest issue is that we are running out of names, because I think standard input-output or something like this, we could come up with a good name.
Yes.
It's actually more difficult for process than for console. So, we should consider those options, because the second that I mentioned has the benefit that it doesn't hurt the existing customers, and we can create a type that is really good for cross-plat and new customers.
Yeah.
Versus the hybrid plan, it's neither perfect for the new customers nor for the existing ones. It's maybe the worst of both worlds.
Well, the current one. This is being recorded.
Yeah.
Okay, I should be careful, where is it?
Yeah, don't say anything you don't want to see yourself saying on the internet. In the cross-platform fashion, and then what's the other one? We have. All right, so I think the easiest way probably to look at AudioNet would be to do a diff, I guess, and then just look at the differences. Would that be, or do you already have something? Do you have already something prepared to look at, or should we just create a simple diff and walk that one?
Obviously we committed bringing back the interface, which I'm not opposed to, but we have a lot of issues.
Yeah.
There's a separating data set out of it is one thing, and the second one is execution point of view. Absolutely, I have no bandwidth. I'm not going to yap about how everything has been crashing down everywhere, and I think I'm not going to go there, because I think absolutely the way Project KN has been managed, I think is horrible, especially for partner team where everybody is all in it. But I would still say it. But let's forget about that. Let's go and focus on the part. So I think a lot of things the community say, I think has a valid point on that. It's a lot of work for them, especially going forward when it's going to take a while for the effects to take off. And in the meantime, all these people who's building on top of them need to afford them. It's not a trivial amount of money, but amount of time and work effort for them to fulfill. So I think it makes sense for us to bring back the interface, which I'm not opposed to. So if we wanted to do it, there's one interface that is a big problem, data reader, which has get schema. So, and
you were talking about bringing back get schema in a different form. What was that?
We were going to bring it as a simple list, not as a data set.
Not as a data table.
Well, if you bring in data table, you are bringing in, you have to bring everything into a data set.
Why do you have to?
Because it has data rows and those rows and columns and all the concept of data set.
Doesn't data set have data tables? but the only tie-in back to dataset is the fact that it knows
Data set includes data table, which has the rows and columns concept, and all other concept like constraints and all this stuff. So again, it's not, so if you bring in the data table, if you bring up the data table, it has its own set of APIs, which has tied back to the rest of the concept of data set.
Can you bring up
Rows and
data table?
data table.
Yeah, the table that was the one I just looked at.
Yeah.
Here we go.
It has 121. So locales, it has rows, collection of rows, and then it has columns, whole bunch of the serialization.
So the question is, can we? So there's a couple of different options, right? We can't break an interface. So if we add an interface, we can't remove
Subset.
members, subset it.
Correct.
Can't change the return type.
Absolutely.
Can't. That's just a non-starter.
Correct. We can
However,
create a new one.
We could do well if you're creating a new one. Like you've kind of defeated the purposes of porting. Like this is completely about compat, right?
Correct.
The get schema is something different. Like whether we bring back get schema in a different form is
Absolutely.
but the interfaces is solely about compat.
So I mean, we can do some compromise. I'm going to be very clear here.
Let's actually look at it.
We do not have a time to back data set, period. Not right now. And I have no plan to review them right now, or I don't have a benefit.
Yeah. So let's talk about what kind of design we would come up with, and talk about resourcing and how who pays for it.
So again, data set is off the table, not for review one. We said that we will review it. I've been always understood that data set is the concept, and I know that in the past it has its own pros and cons and used a lot, and I see the value in bringing those one back, whether it's in that form or in different form from
Yeah.
But it's actually
So
dual
I
picture,
don't
right?
want to bring the data set not right now because we'll be in the
No, I get that. I
So
don't
my
want.
proposal
Yep.
is to add a new interface only for the data reader minus get schema.
Okay, so adding in a new interface is a non-starter
Why?
because the whole point of this is to bring back the interfaces for compat.
Correct.
If they have to fork for the new interface, then it
They
defeats the
don't
purpose.
have to fork anything else, just the one interface.
Where is the interface consumed? Is it like other methods that take it as a parameter?
Yes, so it's exposed.
So who's gonna add those methods to that, and then accept the new interface?
Well, we'll have to add those ones.
And now they've forked their API for it. So I think it's a non-starter. Either we port it, we add in, like, there's no point creating a new interface. You might as well have the base class, right, in that case.
So there's a whole set of the interfaces. There's IDE connections, IDE command. So there's IDE parameters, a whole set of stuff. I do agree, data really is a huge important part of it. So if you guys don't like it, what are the options? What are you proposing?
So what is the problem with iData reader? Is that the data table, you don't want to bring it back? I thought you
Data table has a dependency on, it brings in data table, which brings in a dependency on data set.
Okay,
Data
so
set, yeah.
the data set is the only one that
Yeah.
we've done. So can we look at data table?
Yeah, so
Because
my-
I thought maybe we can bring data set and empty type. Can we?
we could bring back a somewhat subsetted data table, and then
It
So
could be subsetted as to
I
it can
looked
be
into
empty.
it as well, right? I do not want to think of the data table by itself, right? That really means I need to look at the big picture, including data structure and data set. Now, we are going back to that again. The reason we decided not to look into data set at the beginning was because we didn't want to bring it in, but the community
So you're not meeting is
had a
reported.
problem, which they had a point of what they wanted to use. So we said we want to review it after V1 because there's a huge amount of set. Probably there's some of the APIs we don't even know what they are doing. So that means we wanted to look at the whole picture. We wanted to review it. Now, what you are saying is that for us to, yeah, we can bring some subset of data table now, but we're not going to have a time, at least for me, to go and look at the table, and I'll be rushing it in, either bringing something which I don't really are looking for.
No, you can add an empty type.
So
Correct?
what is the point about adding empty type?
Because then you don't have to change this interface.
I understand. But now what are we saying? What is the community going to say?
No, okay, so the community's online, right?
Yeah. So
So-
let's just separate these two things out. I mean, are we generally saying data table or the concept data table is okay? Or are we having a problem with the concept as well?
I have a problem with the bringing empty data table.
No, I
didn't say
get that. I'm
wasn't
saying
the question.
let's say we add data table as it is today with a meaningful subset or even the entire
They
subset.
were bringing a whole bunch of other stuff, and I don't know what else is bringing.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying. Like,
No,
let's.
is there a form of data table that we could bring that is somewhat meaningful without
I
the data
don't
set
know.
dependency?
Okay.
I don't know. I have not reviewed it.
Can we look at data table?
Okay.
So that's
I am under the impression that it is when I looked at it like 3 years ago.
yeah.
But I think what she's saying is she doesn't even have time to review all those 500 members and determine which ones are okay,
Yes.
which ones are not.
No, that's all right. We have design. We can throw this design at someone. It doesn't have to be brought by you, right?
Yeah.
Data
I
common.
didn't say forget about that one.
Yeah.
I didn't say we have to. But at the end of the day, we got to review it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so there's a difference between designing it and reviewing it. I'm saying that, like, what I would do is I would bring in data table or a subset thereof. Like, you should probably take a look at data table. You should tell us, like, what are the concepts you have a problem
I'm
with.
just saying I don't have the time to review that.
Well, let's just do it like a 5-minute exercise. You just tell us, like, high level,
So
what are the things you
let's
don't
not
like.
let's not design it now. Let's have someone design it off, and then put up a proposal.
No, I get that. I'm
Yeah.
saying, like, let's identify the concepts you don't
guys
want to
don't
have,
even know
because
what-
then we
I
can do
don't
that.
even know what each functions do and what else it means. I'm amazed at what it was interesting.
Luckily,
exercise.
we can figure it out.
I know we can figure it out. It's not matter we cannot figure it out. I'm not saying that. I can figure it out. I don't need you guys' help. I can come back and review it, but
So let me ask one question. If you were adding new interface, what would the shape of the interface be? Because it seems like data reader without some members
it
of
will
data
be
table is
it'll be exactly the same thing except the one method.
Which-
I want to reiterate. This is completely about compat. Bringing a new interface defeats that purpose. Either we bring the interface or we don't.
Everybody seems to be, a lot of people seems to be okay.
Well, the problem is that, okay, let's step back. Why are we saying this? So our goal is to have .NET Core and .NET Framework, right? They're essentially two forks, right? So technically we can have arbitrary, we can make arbitrary changes. The challenge is we also want to have a subset between the two that is compatible. And not only compatible, but binary compatible, which is if we bring in half an interface, there's no way to make it binary compatible. So what that means is that in the portable subset, the interface would disappear.
The plan is to backward that new interface back into the program.
Sure. So you can come up with a new interface that has a separate
It's
name
almost same except the one
with half the
function.
members. But then the
Just
problem
target
is,
that,
But why would you need the interface in that? Why wouldn't you just use one of the base classes?
so
Why would you need the interface?
that we can bring a similar, exactly same
But
thing.
what would the interface add over the base class now?
Well, then we'll have 5, 6 other interfaces.
Yeah, but it wouldn't add any value over the existing. The reason we're talking about this,
I
now
understand.
the discussion on the thread got a bit off topic, but it was
It was
originally
backward
around
compatibility,
about
absolutely.
backwards compatibility.
That was
Yeah.
just two things. There was the backward compatibility and the maintenance cost of both the one that was for framework and the FX, correct?
Yeah, they didn't want to fork the API between the two.
Correct.
yes.
So interface is not only the data reader, it has a whole bunch of other interfaces. So you're right, they're not bringing 100% compatibility, but you're almost bringing 99%.
Yeah, so I would say that bringing back a different interface for iData Reader, I don't think
Okay, all right. So, okay,
solves
as
the
I
issue.
said, I'm open to it, other options. For me, bringing data for data table is not a starter. It's not a starter for me.
So why is bringing data table not a starter?
Again, as a full as it is, it's not a starter because we're going to bring a whole bunch of stuff.
Younger, we keep going over the same thing. We're talking about bringing back a subset of data tables
So
that is completely.
Which subset are you proposing to bring back?
Can I finish?
Yeah.
Thanks. Bring back a subset of data tables that is subsetted away, that has no tie-in to data set, is solely just about rows and columns. Right?
Rows and columns are data set.
No, there's a lot more. You can do queries. Are you
going to design the subset? Because you need to also listen to her point. She doesn't have time to do the design.
I understand.
Are you going to do the design?
Well, somebody can.
We can bring
Yes.
At the end of the day, you guys were going to drain my team's time and you're going to drain my time. That's the bottom line. Because you guys are not going to design it and then just fly it out. Correct? Because you guys don't own it, I own it, my team owns it.
That's
At the end
fair.
of the day, something comes in, we have to pay for it, not you guys.
Okay, so but now we're talking separate things here. So now, let's back this up a little and say, so what is it that we want to bring to .NET Core in general? Like either we are bringing, like is the problem that we kind of want to bring data table, but we're not happy with the design because that's a solvable problem, or are we saying we don't want to bring in the implementation because that has cost? Because these are completely different things. Well, but then I don't understand when you say that you're open to bringing it. Like are we open to bring it or not?
I'm open to bring in the concept, which is the cache, the in-memory database concept.
Okay. And then how would that look like if it's not rows and columns?
We'll have rows and columns, not the way it is humongously intertwined as it is today.
So
mostly so I'm going to be really throwing it in. Mostly likely it will be very much more simplified version of what we have today. Whether we might call it a data table, we might call it a data row and stuff, we might have some classes, we might not, I don't know. I have not thought about it. There's a reason why we always said that we didn't want to bring in data table. First of all, it's a lot more than what we really should have been. The concept itself is useful. And also, it has a lot of a time into serialization I don't have to work with. It has a lot of implementation bug, not just the implementation bug, but the concept of what we're trying to do. I will give you an example. The data table and data set has a concept of selecting rows and all this. It takes expressions. And we do what we call data closure. The concept is great, but there's a functionality, but it's really broken because it's not easy to do the data closure and they're not following the proper concept. Again, given the word the community is, I want to back up the compatibility. So you guys are absolutely right. Most likely if we bring back the same concept, people wouldn't want to have some kind of not so much work and so hard to rewrite the new code. So most likely we might get the same, what do we call it, same classes. But again, I have not really had the time to even think about it.
Yes, that's why I'm not saying that you do. I'm saying let's figure out.
It's overwhelming set of APIs.
Understood.
Very complex API set.
okay, then let's back up even more. So how would you bring in the interface if you don't bring in these two? You're basically saying don't bring in the interfaces there.
So that was our original one. Community had a problem and they absolutely have a point. So we can bring it back, but the question is, there's only one thing that will prevent us from bringing the interface back, and that is get schema. What do we do with it?
That's my question. So that's what I'm asking. So what do you propose?
I wanted to do some compromise, and so I said we will everything else same except the data reader. We will create a data reader without minus get schema, but you guys also didn't like that, which I do see that your point. The whole point of it is bringing back the compatibility. So I do see the point.
I really think that it's a separate decision whether we bring data table or not. We should, she's saying no, doesn't have time, we may push back. let's assume for now we are not bringing data table. Let's just add an empty type data table, and then we don't have to change the
No, now we've taken the type data table, right? That's what we're bringing back
So
an
we
empty
need to
type.
have a
data.
vision.
Yeah,
We need to have a
it's a
vision
fact
and a
for-
plan
for-
for it.
No, there has to be a plan. Well, like
Yeah, we
the other
have-
the other thing that you're missing is that get schema is something that is also on the radar. And get schema returns a data table on data reader.
Okay, so
So like we have to have a story around get schema doing something useful there.
no, if it returns an empty type, you could just return
An empty type, but that doesn't solve the problem. They need data,
Okay,
real data.
you're saying that it would not be enough.
Yes,
Okay, yeah. If that's the case, then
we'd have to
you know,
come up with a new method.
Then we need to design new APIs for that.
So we are planning a new API for get schema. There's a get schema table and then there's a get schema. Get schema is on the DB connection, and get schema table is on DB data reader.
What's the type returned by get schema table? Right. So
So
And DB connection returns to the data table.
what? So
You understand why I ripped it out in the first place?
no, I don't understand. So
well,
now
I
I am
understand why you
confused.
ripped it out. I don't understand what we cannot do about it. Given
Oh,
so many
we are
APIs depends on
adding
the
a new method, which will return something else. But they can have a get schema functionality, but they won't get it into that.
I really think that we should move to a model where data table is just a simple data type. But bring it back as a simple data type, cut it down to just rows and columns, and then look at the picture of the data set further on. I mean, it's similar to what we've done in other areas.
Yeah. Like personally, I think the I understand the cost argument, but at the same time, if we are,
It's not just a right?
what is then the argument?
It's about planning for the future. We need to know when we bring in data table, we have to have some good feeling or plan for what we're going to do after we align these APIs.
I understand that. What I'm saying is that if an argument is to be made for that you don't have the time or the resources to look at it, design it, and even implement it, then it seems to me the argument is building something new or designing something new is even more off the table as opposed to just
Yeah.
subsetting what we have. Okay, but then
You look at it, we carefully removed, we did not bring anything that we want to trigger the description of data table. I know we are having an inflection point where we are going back and looking at some of those ones, but we are carefully reviewing this data set. The data table for that matter.
Yes, I know that was an explicit
After
goal.
V1,
Yeah.
that was goal, I was not
But-
hiding from the day one, I was very clear about those goals.
Right, so we understand that.
So,
But two things are coming in right now. One, there's the iData reader interface, which has a dependency on it. Secondly, we need get schema.
get schema, that we did it, they're
So
working on it.
yes,
They're working on RC2.
but get schema and these both have a dependency on it.
Now, I'm bringing in a form where there is not dependent, that's the point I'm
Yes.
making.
But how about we come up with a design that is dependent on data table?
I think it's ridiculous that in the first place that it was taking a dependency on data.
that's fair.
We could go back and 15 years ago and redesign it, but we can't.
Yeah, I know,
So
okay. But again, who's going to do that?
So let's talk about the cost thing later. Like, let's get an agreement on an approach, and then talk about when we do it and how we do it. For example, we could say that we could add the interfaces back in V2 without a breaking change. Right?
Is that possible?
Yes.
So I was going to ask you guys.
Well, we could. That could be one option. If we wanted to
So
front load the work.
actually, I
then we-
was going to, so let's talk about that one. Is it possible? Because I thought that if we add it, now everybody has to implement this, so now it's.
Well, you would
implement.
implement it on the base, right? You just have the base delegate. You just implement it on the abstract base classes.
there's a lot of information that has to be done on a page.
The interfaces are a subset of the base class. The interface's behavior can be talked in terms of the base class. So we could go in V2 add interfaces on the base classes
And
that delegate onto the base class.
completely lost. I have to go back and take a look at this at the time, and I'm not sure whether that's
So,
always
okay,
true.
let's go.
I don't know whether that's always true or not. I'm just saying it. I don't know.
Well, we currently don't have the interfaces, right? So clearly, you can expose an API without having an
And we
interface.
have problems now.
There's a few bugs that we need to fix before V1.
Yeah.
But for the most part, the base classes are a superset,
well-
apart from getSchema.
So, okay, I will trust that. You're saying that we can add it.
Well, it's been 3 years since I looked at it, but when I looked at it 3 years ago, when we did the work to...
Yeah, we did. We
Yeah.
did. But I didn't look into work and like bring the interface back.
We can make a confirmation that we won't be tying ourselves, but we could bring back the interfaces in V2.
Okay,
Now,
let's
all
just-
it comes down to is who does the work, and whether we front load the work in V1 or
after
V2.
V2, we do have a time to do it. At the end of the day, I mean, since the SB.NET who wanted to both, they ultimately they wanted a simple client. And they wanted to open source, they wanted to make it work across platform, and that's what the patients
Yep.
need, right?
Yep.
Okay, so so it pretty much comes down to not a design, but a cost. A cost.
No, it's both. When I said the V2, then I can go and look at the interfaces for this, and I can have a.
But imagine we had all the time in the world.
Yes.
We could come up with a design that would satisfy everyone's needs, and we could implement it.
Okay.
Great. All right. So now it just comes down to... Okay. Awesome.
But no, I work it out. I don't think people will be happy to see those 1 and 2.
Well, that's the general problem.
I didn't say we had to do it in V2. I said all it comes down to is that it's a cost that you can't do it before V2, right? You don't have enough resources to do it with V2.
Well, it's not the resources. I think even if I throw more people in, I don't think we're going to scale. I already have thrown half of my team into the presentation.
Yeah.
5 people.
Yeah.
I don't think throwing more people will not going to help. At least not like.
This is a kind of a side. This is a side design that is not a make a baby in 1 month with 9 people kind of thing. It's not that.
What is that?
I disagree, but
At the end of the day, we do have a common resources that we get involved in. Which also involved with the other project.
Well, it depends on what the approach is, right? If the approach is essentially we bring in the things as they are, we just make sure we don't have bad dependencies, then it's basically somebody needs to do the design work, which I think could be done by either team. And then the other side of it is the porting part, which is linear.
It's all about looking at the bigger picture and doing the right design
Yep.
for the future. I don't want us to make that decision one by one. It comes up.
absolutely.
We
I get
thought
it.
that we have done a lot of good things. I thought it's like my team has looked at, and we looked at extensively when we were in
Yeah.
the common one. I looked at it with my team extensively about what are the percent that we bring in when we started off. Okay, but there's a rules. I mean, there's certain things I have not known about which create this for me up. So, even though we have that.
But I don't see how this is any different, because we came up with this data common with a bunch of pretty smart people who knew the area pretty well, and we still had holes. Like, we're going to have holes regardless of...
I spent about a month doing that for API when we started it. Data set is about as much as big as.
Yes, I know data set is big.
I know.
Yes.
And it's very complex, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff I'm not familiar with.
Yep.
And I own these things.
Yeah, I can.
So at the end of the day, I need to put time on it and have like 10 other releases there.
Okay. So it's a resources thing.
Resources
Yeah.
and expertise.
Is there any way we can offload that into other areas? Where we can say, maybe we can come up with a proposal that says, we want the core to be independent of data table and data set.
But there's another one, right? So thank you for bringing it up. So if we want to bring up the data set it will be completely, I was hoping that will be completely vanilla. The way it is designed to be, it has to be with the.
That's why I think that we break it between data table and data set.
Okay.
You make data table very simple.
So you guys can party on it,
Yeah.
but you guys have to come back and tell me what it is. And I'm like,
I think we just need to come up with a proposal before
okay.
we, and then.
You guys haven't, there's nothing that would prevent you guys from coming up with a proposal. I don't know how much time it's going to take me for me to review it, but I gotta review it. So.
Okay.
But that's what I meant earlier. Like if we just put some guardrails in and say here's the basically the general structure that we want to have. Let's say we don't want that. Right? Let's say we want to say system.com with interfaces independent of data table. Let's say we say this as a stake in the ground. I don't know how we would design such a thing, but I mean if that's the goal that we have, then we can run with that. But what I'm saying is that I think we should decouple the implementation cost from, or the porting cost, or the maintenance cost from the design. Because I think the design is just about layering. We can tackle that.
What about the implementation? We got to design. Certainly there's a design rules, right? And we have to go and design it. Somebody needs to go and design it.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
am I hearing volunteers?
No, I've been talking to management, and I can get people on this. So.
But I need a schedule. My time is very, very extravagant.
Absolutely.
And Saura will be able to vouch for that one. I don't even have the time to think.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Yeah, we can talk about that once we know what we want to do with it. But the other question is how opposed are you for basically somebody else doing the port? Because let's say we actually have a compatible subset and we say, yeah, we factor data table out, we factor data set out. The code it's already out in the reference source.
Who's going to do that?
It could be the community, it could be us.
I don't know why you're pushing back on someone else doing it, and you're saying you have no resources.
No, it's not. Okay, we've been porting so community is fine. I can write one. I don't know. Who's going to oversee the project, making sure that this.
So other than get schema, right? Get schema. We just have to make sure we play and make sure the data table looks okay. Other than that, the interface is delegating onto the base classes. It's not really a hard problem.
We're going in the data table. We gotta implement the data table.
Yes,
right?
yes. I said other than data table,
Yeah.
the interface delegation problem could be given to is a CS 101.
You can go and take a look at it. I'm about 95% okay. I'm not sure about the other 5%. There's some funky things going on. So we need to go over it.
Well, the hardest thing is compatible desktop.
Correct.
That's the
point.
hardest thing.
But that's the point I'm making. I'm not worried about the implementation. I'm not talking about that one. I'm talking about the backward compatibility with the full desktop.
Yeah, and that's something that our team generally owns up the stack, right? So I mean, like I think we already have tools that can verify at least that the APIs are compatible, and then I mean implementation is to a certain extent something we can front load on our side. I'm just curious to like what our path is, because I mean it seems to me the biggest trouble we have is dependencies, like making sure that we layer things in the same way that if let's say we come up with a new design for how we do in-memory databases, that we can have them parallel to what we have today. But I think like I agree with Dave, if you want to bring in data table and data set, I'd rather have a proposal where we subset what we have a bit to break the dependencies and leave the rest pretty much as it is, bringing in as secondary packages or secondary APIs. All right. Yeah, no, I mean that's I think something that our team knows how to do. I mean it just I think if we come up with a design that has the right dependencies, you can take a look at that, and then we can have a cost of talk about who's doing the work and when.
So right now we are planning like 6 months.
Yeah, I don't know what the time frame is. I have to talk to the people that said that they could put resources at this.
Okay.
Yeah.
So some people have resources, and I'm down 5 people.
Yep.
So, but I think here's the interesting one. I I think there's a lot of contentions around open source communities and ORM providers and other providers. What they are really interested in is base class or the common interfaces, not specifically interested in super client.
No. A lot of the concern is about, well,
It's
not
a
SQL
programming
client,
model.
but
What I'm saying is, so right now, if you really look at it, we are spending a lot of time making SQL client runnable on the Linux. In fact, and that's what's consuming over 50% right now.
Yep.
If I don't need to do the cross-platform, I don't have to. I mean, it's even be like I'm comfortable about not having, functional tests. That's what we right now we don't have a functional test on Windows. But I'm okay with in terms of the amount of change we did on the Windows and the risk. I'm not as feel like I'm going to lose my sleep over it. Cross-platform is completely different story. I'm losing my sleep over it right now because of the quality, and I really don't know what the heck we should do. That's the problem. There's a lot of people there who's been really vocal on the community has been the people on the ORM side, and what they really care is the programming model.
Yep.
And so I haven't been overall in the project case, in effort. I really have not heard of your vision of these. Like, what is the cut goals? It was great that you were open sourcing, but if you do open sourcing, there has to be certain things we have to follow, and we have to have a policy. But a lot of us, like partner who's doing everything in just small team who owns it, is still struggle. Like, is it base classes more important than SQL client and SQL client on Linux? Everything is.
well, I think it's clear that you have to get the base classes right.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not saying that, but at the end of the day, still we need to get a prioritization, right? What is more important?
But how is that a policy question? That's a design question. You're saying that we need to establish some policy around it, and I'm saying it's not a policy question to me. This is a design question. Whether interfaces or base.
No, it's not that. It's whether you
Where you spend the resources.
Where do you put the resources?
Yeah, I think
It's about where you put the resources. Do you spend time making SQL client better, or do you spend time making the abstractions?
Yeah.
And I think you have to get the abstractions right.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not saying that.
So
we are doing it. I mean, so again, it's about, do we do everything up front and make the abstraction, all complete first, and do we go with
no, like it's not a black and white thing, right? I mean, you obviously need an implementation of SQL client on Linux to have, a sensible data storage to begin with, but it's also true that you need the base classes, and like enough of the base classes to have the ecosystem support .NET Core in a meaningful fashion. I mean, like if we have SQL client on Linux, but none of our community projects, like and Hibernate and stuff like that, can work on that, then you start with a zero ecosystem on the cross-plat thing, and so that's.
I already know that, right?
That's what I'm saying.
I'm asking the question.
You are asking me to do a black or white decision. I'm saying there is no black and white decision. It's a continuum.
This is just fun. I don't know who's driving this.
Yeah, okay.
I will exactly say what my manager said the other day. The other day, my manager said, if you only have one thing to do, what would you do? I have 30-some stuff.
Yep.
What am I going to do? I know what I'm going to do, but it's the right side.
Okay.
I think
this is not the right forum for this.
It's not. Yeah. So I'm just asking you guys. It's still very unclear who's driving.
Yeah. So
who's
again, I think we should take this offline. Like, this is not the right. This is the design.
I understand, but I'm asking.
This is being.
So who should I ask this question?
Talk to Peter Markey.
Peter Markey. Okay. All right.
All right.
All right.
Oh, let's do the full.
All right. I think that's 11.
Okay. I have another. Right. So who's writing?
So that will be me, I guess. I mean, I will sync with the same people that not Wes, Dave wants to talk about resourcing. But I think the first thing we need to do on our side is figuring out who can take a step at the layering and when.
By the way. Oh, you can even it's not like I do appreciate it. I just see a lot of problems. There's want and need, and I have time, resources.
Yes.
Not to mention my directors are getting on top of me for the service that.
Okay.
All right.
Do you want to pull the camera?
Yes. Now.